I'm Kevin Jacobsen of Gold Derby here with Eugenio Derbez, one of the stars of the very acclaimed Apple film CODA. And just to start, I'm curious because you are more or less primarily known as a comedic actor, how you ended up with this more dramatic role of playing this choir teacher and just what appealed to you about this script.
Well, as you just said, I've been doing comedy my entire life. So I am basically a comedian. I've done my career in Mexico and Latin America. So I'm a new face here in the US, but for all the Hispanic market, I'm a very well-known face, especially in the comedy side. So, but I always wanted to make drama. And thank God when I moved to this country and I started working in this country, a lot of producers, directors, they didn't know my background, thank God. So they're giving me chances like this one. And I appreciate that. I really appreciate that because it's like starting all over again. And it's very refreshing to me and to my career. So I love that Sean gave me the opportunity to cast in this amazing character. And also because it's important to me as a Latino. When I moved to this country, I received always the same kind of offers. They wanted me to play always the drug lord, the narco, the bad guy, the best case scenario, the gardener. So I promised myself that if I could, I would try to break the stereotypes and just accept this kind of role. So when they call me to play this music teacher, it was like, this is the kind of things that I want to do, to portray Latinos in a different way in Hollywood. So I was very happy and thrilled that they gave me this amazing opportunity to do drama and to portray different character.
Yeah. And also, this is, I feel like, a very distinct and memorable character. You have a really great opening moment to the film, too, where the character's introducing himself as Bernardo Villalobos, and he just has like such a distinct personality right out the gate. How much of that personality was in the script itself versus your own ideas for how to play him?
Well, it had a little, but of course, I told Sean, I said, Sean, I would like to give this character a very unique personality. I was watching movies like Dead Poets Society with Robin Williams, Whiplash, those kinds of films when the teacher is really, really important in the story. I didn't want to be just a teacher, a music teacher. I want to be a very special and unique music teacher. So I worked with Sean Heather, the director, directly and told her, I want to create a very specific and unique personality to Bernardo. So we made this background story that we don't see in the movie, but supposedly this guy is a musician. He's not a music teacher from a high school in Gloucester. He's a musician that was popular in Mexico and Latin America, a little bit based in my story too. And he tries to make a crossover in the US and he fails. And he decides to quit and he starts teaching music at this high school in Gloucester. And he discovers that he's good at it and he loves it and he's passionate. That's why we see him that he's very passionate with his students. He may come off as a cold and mean character at the beginning, but then you realize that the thing is that he really cares. He's always demanding a lot from his students, and he really cares. And he wants, in a certain way, he wants Ruby to become what he couldn't be. And that's very important for me. I really wanted to make a character that was meaningful, not just a music teacher. And we printed that into the character.
Yeah, certainly. And then hearing that backstory actually makes sense with what we actually see in the film. So I love having that backstory there. But
that's also why he was dressed in a very unique way. He's like,
yes.
He's a rock star in a certain way.
I know. I love the wardrobe. There's also a musical element here where, you're playing the piano, you're giving these voice lessons, you're conducting this big choir. How much of that came naturally to you versus maybe what you may have needed training for?
I had to work really hard. I've never directed an orchestra or a choir or anything, so it was a lot of work. And for some reason, it's everything is connected, but it's completely different. Learning, I had to learn 6 different pieces in the piano. I played the piano when I was a kid, so I had the basics, but just the basics. So I had to learn 6 new songs. It was crazy. Thank God I had a great coach. My coach was the same coach who coached Ryan Gosling for La La Land. So she's amazing, Liz Kinnan. And that helped a lot. And also, I remember that during all those 4 months, when I was traveling, I booked hotels with a piano. And I always asked, is there a piano in the hotel? Can I play the piano? So it was very fun because I was practicing every single time in my house. Then I bought a keyboard and I was traveling with the keyboard so I could rehearse everywhere. So it was a lot of work. And then directing a choir is a completely different animal. It's something completely different that I need to learn. So I was practicing with every single song in the radio all the time. My kids were like, what are you doing that? And we're like, with my AirPods, all the time in the car, in the house, getting the sense to make it organic and natural. So it was a trip. It was truly a trip. And also I had to learn how to teach singing. So I had to take singing lessons for a while to understand all the exercises, the way you need to teach those exercises. So it was a crazy amount of work, but very interesting.
Yeah. And well, you're working very extensively with Amelia Jones, who plays Ruby, who's just such an incredible, she's a revelation, I think.
Amazing.
And you have a certain chemistry with her, and you just have this really fun back and forth dynamic throughout the film. Can you just talk about working with her as basically your one scene partner for most of the film?
Well, let me tell you that I've never met a teenager with such a commitment. I mean, she's incredible. She had to learn, first of all, change the accent for an American accent because she's from the UK. Then she had to learn how to fish, and she had to learn sign language. And it took her like 9 months, but she's extremely fluent. You can tell the difference between her and a CODA and a real CODA. And then she had to learn how to sing. She didn't know how to sing before the movie. So I was really in awe. I thought she was not going to be able to do all that together, and she did. And let me tell you, I never, ever, during the shooting, I never saw her with a cell phone in her hand, ever. She was always committed. I never saw her texting. I never saw her on Instagram and Facebook. She was always committed to the project. So I loved her since day one. And she's a very, very nice person, very friendly, always. I have no words to explain how great she is as a human being and, of course, as an actress.
Yeah. Well, one part of this is we see she's struggling, Ruby, to juggle these lessons with your character and all the responsibilities with her family. And, your character can be kind of stern at times with her about, being late, and tells her to like stop wasting his time. What was your take? I think you mentioned a little bit with like watching Whiplash and Dead Poets Society. And I'm just curious about like that aspect of the character, the idea of being tough but not necessarily like abusive.
Exactly. It was a very fine line that we were trying to define with the director, and that's part of the story. At the end, we had to cut some scenes where Bernardo is with his family, but supposedly my character Bernardo is married, and he has like a 6 or 7 year old daughter. And that's we made this story that he finally quit. He was touring. He's been touring his entire life all around the world, and now that he quit, he's devoted to his family. And that's what there's a scene where he tells her, "I have a life, and I'm not wasting my time waiting for you. So if you're not interested in taking the lessons. Don't make me waste my time, because I have a daughter, I have a life. So we put this in the middle because again, I wanted this character to be. I remember that when I was at school, there's always a teacher in our lives that made our lives miserable at school in a certain point. But then if you realize that it was because they really cared. The ones that then don't care was like, yeah, don't, whatever. Yeah, I'll put you they are like easygoing, and those teachers, they don't really care about you. But the other ones that are really tough, it's because they care or they love what they're doing. So I wanted to portray that, and that's why Bernardo is not losing his time. He has a family, he has things to do, and he's very strict. I will give you my time and my talent, and he knows that he has a talent, but I'm not going to be playing around with a teenager. And of course, he understands that she has some problems, but probably he doesn't know how big they are. So we try to find this fine line where he's tough, but he's not. Again, he might come off as a mean character, but he's not. He's just a guy who's like just pushing her to be a better human being and a better singer.
Because he sees her potential. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, the film had such a positive response when it premiered at Sundance, and I'm curious for you because you don't have too much screen time with the rest of Ruby's family. What was your reaction when you saw the finished film and you got to see the other side of the story with Ruby's family, and sort of just how the whole film came together with all the different themes?
I was really in awe, because I met Marley and Daniel and Troy, and I had just one scene with them. But that scene was enough to know them pretty well. I remember that I connected with the three of them in such a deep way, especially with Troy, because I remember that Troy told me just before start shooting, he said, I just watched a movie that I directed and I started. It's called Instruction Not Included. So he said, I just watched your movie, and it really touched my heart. And then we had to move to our positions, and from far away, he started looking at me and signing me in a certain way that I understood everything he was telling me. And I didn't know how to sign language, but he was communicating through his eyes in such a deep way that, Kevin, I can't describe. They have this amazing ability, because they don't use words, to communicate through their eyes.
The physicality of it, right?
Exactly. It's incredible. I have chills every time I think about that moment. And then after we end up that scene, I ran and I hugged him, and we connected such in a deep way. And I learned a lot about them and about their culture. And also, let me tell you something. I think this movie connects with everyone in the world. You don't need to be deaf to understand this world or to make this movie interesting for you. For example, my community or any immigrant in the world would feel connected to this movie, because I think that immigrants, in my case, I've seen this with Latinos, but immigrants in the US, many of them are like CODAs, because first generation, they come to this country and they don't know how to speak English. Some of them, they don't want to learn, or they can't learn because they are too old. So their kids, they're born here and they speak perfect English. They translate to their parents. So if the parents need to go to the doctor, they say, you need to come with me because I'm going to the doctor and I don't want to miss anything. I knew you need to translate for me. If they go with a lawyer, same thing. If they go, with a whatever thing, they need the kids to translate. So the sons of immigrants that were born here, they're like CODAs. They need to dedicate their life to translate to their parents. And sometimes they can't achieve their dreams because they feel that if I leave and I go to somewhere, another country to follow my career, I'm betraying my family. And sometimes they don't follow their dreams because they have to stay to help their family in certain ways. So I think there's a big link, and it's not just CODAs. Everyone can relate to this movie.
Yeah, that's such an interesting perspective. I didn't even think of. It's true. Well, we don't have a whole lot of time left, but I've seen you mention, going back to this being a more dramatic role for you, how you might want to pivot to some more dramatic roles. Are there any specific types of roles you would want to take on, whether it's like a biopic or just like a real life figure type of film, or like a romantic drama, something in horror? Like, is there anything that you have in mind that you still want to do with your career?
Well, first of all, I would like to be a villain. I would love to. I would love to be a real villain, not a comedic villain, a real one. You know, in a movie, or in an action movie, or in a superhero movie, something like that. I would love to do something like that. And I just finished the movie. For some reason, I got another dramatic role. I just finished a couple of days ago. So this was my second dramatic movie, and this one was really, really, really dramatic, extremely, probably the most dramatic thing that I've ever done in my career. So I'm excited, and I feel that for some reason, it's like in another different world. I've been doing comedy my entire life, and it's so hard to make people laugh. So hard. I feel it's harder to make people laugh than make them cry. Because comedy depends on many things. You don't laugh the same. I mean, people don't laugh the same if they're from a different economic background, or if you're from the US and I'm from Mexico, we don't laugh at the same things. Depends on so many things that it's very complicated. Drama is universal. We all cry for love, or when a family member dies. It's kind of more universal. So for some reason, it's easier. But comedy, on the other hand, it's like, it's a comedy. They don't take comedy seriously. And now that I just did drama, I can feel the difference. Everyone is calling me. I go to award shows. I feel more important. Now I get why guys like Tom Hanks, they don't go back to comedy, or Robin Williams, Jim Carrey, probably because they take you in a more serious way. So I love that too. It's very interesting.
Yeah, well, I think we're all looking forward to seeing that very dramatic next step for you.
Yeah, I'm curious too.
Yeah. Well, for those of you watching, like and subscribe for more interviews, and head to goldderby.com to make your Oscar predictions. Eugenio, thank you so much for talking with me today.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you very much for the interview, and thanks for your time. And I love you. You loved CODA.